And he turned around and went, this is just what I dream of Christmas to be like. The big kitchen table and all the folk round it, and you're like, oh my, that was...
Oh, you're getting emotional.
Oh,
nice.
I said, see, when you read your guidelines, get to the back page and see whose names are on there for who wrote these guidelines. And I put the phone down. Half an hour later, he phoned me back. Yes.
And I'm not coming at it from that I've had an issue with infertility, because actually I haven't in that regard.
Clearly, third on the way.
I've been Cammy.
I've been Iona.
And we are both
Fed by Farmers.
Hello and welcome to the Fed by Farmers podcast with me, Cammy Wilson.
And me, Iona Murray.
Iona, we are almost through lambing.
I know.
It's beautiful. I'm looking forward to getting some sleep. I can tell you. How's your dad getting on?
Oh, not great. Not great.
When a bad run now. Last week it was good. And
I know.
What's happening this week?
Just various problems.
Lamb's getting too big now.
Lamb's getting too big. He's, just had a run of bad things. But like we said at the beginning and the end, it's always the same.
It is.
And you know what? He'll be tired. He's tired as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, temper gets shorter as it goes on.
Patience.
Patience gets shorter as you get more and more tired. Before we get too far into it, as always, we've got to thank our sponsors, which are
Animax Tracesure and Crystalyx. Sorry, I don't know, I lost myself there.
I put you right on the spot. Crystalyx. Well, it's just Crystalyx, but extra high energy is what we're using for lambing time. You can use it for calving. And they're also, as you'll hear later in this podcast, pushing the high mag licks for cattle turnout. And of course, bolusing will be coming up soon for lambs. A lot of people bolus their lambs. So if you do bolus your lambs, please do think about Animax Tracesure and mention that you heard it here on the podcast, because it's good for us and they actually do feed it back to us, which is really decent. So thanks to them for making this all happen. We've got an interview today. We could blether, but we're going to do a Friday chat. So let's just get into this interview today.
Yep.
Davy Henderson from Kilpatrick Farm on the Isle of Arran. Arran, for anyone who doesn't know, is a small island. We talk about it in the chat, but just to set the scene, it's a small island off the west coast. Have you been?
I have.
How many times?
I'm going to say 4.
Okay. That's decent. That's decent. Most people in the west of Scotland have been to Arran at some point. Did you walk up Goatfell?
I was just going to say no, but I do want to do that.
Right,
I know.
That's why most people go.
Yeah, it's on the list.
Goatfell is a large hill. It's not quite a mountain, but it's a large hill on the Isle of Arran. And it's quite striking if you live on the west or on Ayrshire, where we live here. Basically, everywhere in Ayrshire looks over to Arran. Can you see it from Muirkirk?
No,
I was going to say, so I'm talking
We're
nonsense.
too far.
Just if you're near the coast.
Yeah.
But the sun sets behind Arran.
It is lovely.
Yeah, so that's what makes it particularly beautiful, the silhouette of the mountain of Goatfell. So David's going to talk to us about life on the island as a farmer, issues with boats. If you live in Scotland, you'll know that there's been big trouble with the boats to Arran, so we talk a bit about that and just other woes that betide him. Is betide him the right word there?
I don't know.
It feels like it is, but I don't.
It's quite nice as well, link with the boat.
Oh, like that is clever and I didn't even mean it. Let me just see what betide means. I actually have my phone this week.
While you're doing that, can I say something else?
No.
It's maybe also just worth noting that we recorded this one quite a while ago, because I noticed there's a few mentions of, like, it's clearly before Easter and there's mentions of that and like coming up, it's lead up to lambing and things like that. So yeah, obviously we're out of sync time wise a bit.
Very good point. Yeah, all the interviews that you've been hearing the last couple of weeks were recorded before lambing, because nobody has time to do podcasts, especially Iona, during lambing. So we record the interview beforehand, but this is current. This is one day. This is Monday. Podcast is going out tomorrow morning. So this is very, very current. Betide means happen to someone. So that perfect.
Yeah.
Waiting for what woes betide them.
That's nice.
Yeah,
what a
good.
lovely phrase.
Yeah.
What woes betide them.
It's
nice.
Like that's 2 weeks in a row. That's 2 podcasts in a row. I've dropped in a nice word.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it? Cantankerous. There's a lot of comments about
I know.
cantankerous.
And also,
betide 'em.
don't worry, we'll talk about it later.
I sent you that funny TikTok. I sent Iona a funny TikTok. I'll actually put it. No, I will not put it in the podcast because
Do it in the Q&A. We'll do it in the Q&A.
We'll save it for next week. It's very funny. A guy, like when you make a new friend and they teach you all these new words and you've got to try and slot them in. Anyway, that's enough. Have we got on with hearing about Davy?
Yes.
Let's go. Davy Henderson, nice to have you here on the podcast.
Nice to be here, thank you.
Is this a major bucket list moment for you?
It's top of the bucket list, Danny. It is top of the bucket list. Even before I knew you, I wanted to do this.
One day,
Aye.
you'll be on the UK's favourite farming podcast. Asterisk that.
I was going to say.
Yeah, because that's opinion, not fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the majority of stuff on here.
Yes, I do. Obviously, don't believe any you're on here.
Oh, I
But
thought you were talking about the Farmers Weekly one there, sorry.
I'd love to know their figures. See if someone working the Farmers Weekly team hears this and knows the figures. Send us an email because I'd like to know where we are. We are sitting, I'll be quite open and transparent, we are sitting about 10,000 downloads per episode, combining YouTube and audio downloads.
Right, aye, different platforms,
Yeah, so between the two platforms, YouTube and audio downloads, we're sitting about 10,000 plus. You know, some of them like Hoof GP's done like 40,000 or something, but you know, averaging out about 10,000.
That's mental.
In fact,
Is that quite good?
Well, I just think it's insane that 10,000 people are listening to it.
Davey, we've done an introduction for you. We've explained you're an island farmer. Is this our first island farmer?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, tell us a bit about. Let's start from the beginning. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
The egg.
Right. Okay. Right. That's that out the way. Now tell us about your beginning.
Well, born and bred on Arran. I've been there just under 50 years. And farm in Shiskin Valley. We run about 350 mule ewes, 50 suckler cows, and then we contract 650 chivets, and they're on an organic. They've gone organic. So we started that 3 years ago. So it's myself, my dad, and we hire in folk, just casual labour as and when we need it. So starting lambing a couple of weeks' time. So it should be quite interesting. We do a lambing live thing. We're going to open it. Well, about 7 or 8 years ago, we kept going up. We were taking lambs up to the slaughterhouse and all that, and there was all the kind of vegan protesters out and all that, and we thought we need to do something like to promote what we do. So I contacted Leaf. Is it Leaf Open Farm Sunday? They do,
I should know that.
They do that
I
kind of stuff, but they only do it on a date.
Sunday?
It's like a date.
It's a one day.
And of course, you don't work a Sunday.
Yes. They only do it a date in June.
Yeah,
So there's not really a lot to see on a beef and sheep farm in the yard. So I then contacted Elaine Bryson, spoke to her, and I said, look, Elaine, we're thinking of doing this. So she said, oh yeah, we'll do that. She says, when you think of doing it? Next week. So she's a slight panic aboard. They're getting all the risk assessments and all that done. So we've done that now. I can't remember how many years we've done it, but just let folk on, advertise it. So we done it, first time we done it, it was a day.
Right.
But we just found that was too, so we done it for 2 days each week in the Easter holidays. But it was just too much getting, you weren't getting stuff, being able to do your own stuff. So what we do now, we just do it for 2 hours in the afternoon, but we do it over 4 days, like 4 days each week.
Right.
So you get the same amount of time, but it's just easier spread out over the 4 days. You can get stuff done in the morning and at night as well. So I know it's been quite a success. A lot of folk turn up and
is it people from Arran or is it?
it's probably more visitors because it's an Easter time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like holiday makers and
People on
that
holiday.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say probably 70% will be from the mainland. But local ones turn up as well. But
Yeah.
it's quite we do that.
Get ready for a successful turnout and choose Crystalyx this grazing season. Spring grass is typically fast-growing and lush. However, it can contain high levels of potassium, which reduces magnesium availability. Crystalyx Cattle High-Mag incorporates multiple magnesium sources and is proven through trials at Glasgow University to help maintain normal blood magnesium levels. With 35% sugar and a unique blend of vitamins, minerals and trace elements, Crystalyx Cattle High-Mag supports optimal performance at turnout.
And then we've done a thing with Clyde, was it Glasgow Clyde colleges, where they've got like a cooking or like in a chef type students and all that. So we've done a thing with the Arran Hotel, ourselves and the Arran Butcher. So they came to the farm, seen the lambs, went to the butchers, seen them, and then went to Arran and had them as a finished product.
That's a great idea.
And if they passed their exams, Arran guaranteed them a interview for a job. So that was part
quite
of
a good setup.
the thing. We've done that, but we've done that. So the first 2 groups were students, like college students. The third group was kids that weren't allowed in school, like they were like chucked out of schools, so they go to the college, and they said to us about this one boy who, he said, look, we don't think he'll turn up. He's no, he's just a typical wee out of Glasgow. He'll no turn up. So that was fine. The bus came in the morning. This wee boy jumps out the bus, cigarette in his hand. Of course, Elaine's here. She's a hairy fitch. She says, we don't have cigarettes in our risk assessment, David.
I can see it.
So he wasn't allowed to be left. He had to be like a lecturer with him all the time, just keeping an eye on him. So at the start, he was a bit just kind of stupid and all that. But see, by the end of the day, he was actually probably in the bet. He was actually showing an interest in the thing. And he was asking questions, and he was very good. And at the end of it, they were going into Mum and Dad's house, just for like a drink or something like that. But he said, no, I'm not going in. He just didn't want to go in to like whether it was a confined space or what it was. He goes, I want to go back up to your shed to see your cows.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And so I said to the lecturer girl, I says, is that okay? She says, yeah, as long as you go home, that's fine. I says, right, I'll do you a deal. Go up to the shed, and if you come up to the shed, you'll come back. When you come back down, you'll come into the house with Mum and Dad. Right. Aye, okay, that's okay. So up done that, and he came back into the shed. Now this was probably about April, May time. Walked into the kitchen, and he turned around and went, this is just what I dream of Christmas to be like. The big kitchen table and all the folk round it, and you're like, oh my, that was,
You're getting emotional.
Oh,
nice.
and
So
you think,
nice.
you see, these kids have, some of them have got, it's there in them.
Yeah.
But it's just bringing it out. But as you're probably, for everyone like that, there's probably 7 or 8 that are just totally opposite. But
It can't be helped, yeah. But then it's all about the circle of poverty thing. We used to talk about it in the police. It's like a circle of poverty. It's like if the parents, well, we'd usually say, if the parents are wronging, the child ends up being a wronging, their child ends up being a wronging, their child, some of them break out and break the mould, but you end up with this circle of poverty type thing they call it, where it's hard to break. In classrooms, like Lizzie's got grand ideas for the boys for homeschooling and things like that, and she's showing me all this research about especially young boys going to school. Boys particularly, girls are a lot better, but there is studies to show that like young boys at age 5 and 6, like going to school is a nightmare for them because they just want to run about and be wild. And actually she showed me, I think it's like Sweden or Norway or Denmark, at least maybe all three together, they don't go to school till they're 7.
Yes, and I think that is such a good idea.
Yeah. It would help straight away with the teacher issue.
We should have Alison here to tell you.
Well, exactly. Your wife Alison is a teacher, and she'll know what it's like more than we do. But Lizzie, I'm dead against it. First, I'm like, homeschooling, like you're dreaming, and then the more things she shows me in that, she's almost winning me over.
You lose the kind of social interaction with other kids there. But that's a big.
You say that, but then you get them into young farmers, you get them into sports.
Yeah,
they would still get it. Run about the shows. I mean, you look at the way kids are at the farm shows all summer. They spend the whole 4 days.
and
Exactly.
Going wild. keep away for that.
And now as well, we had a lot of groups come to Dumfries House that were homeschooling groups. So there's organisations that bring together all the children who are getting homeschooled in the area, and they can come together and they get together, say once a fortnight, once a month, and they still do trips. And also all the parents, it's like can like interact and talk about, like it's a kind of community for parents.
It's like a community for
Okay, and how did you find the homeschool kids behaved, and what were they like compared to other schools?
A mixed bag, like everybody.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you wouldn't pick them out as being different to
But would you not think homeschool kids would probably be from more well-off backgrounds?
I think you have to be well off.
They'd probably be
It's an absolute, again, it's a privileged thing.
Aye, but like private school.
Definitely. I almost said that when you said you're not worried about them with social skills and that. Well, it could be worse. It could be mixing the folk that I want to mix with. Look at her now. No, but we love private school here. But it's a privileged thing. For example, Lizzie doesn't have to go and get a job. Well, she's flat out. I know, and this is where folk can pick me up wrong, as if like Lizzie doesn't work. Lizzie works flat out all the bloody time, but she does the things she wants to do. She doesn't have to go and do a 9 to 5 to make ends meet like a lot of mums have to do. So we are privileged in that regard, that if she decides she wants to spend each morning doing 3 hours of homeschooling, we can make that happen. But we'll see. I think by the time they get to that age, she'll be absolutely demented, and she'll be like, absolutely, absolutely.
But they'll learn a total different skill at home than they will in their school, because
What puts me off school, this is even from my police, what puts me off school now is Snapchat.
Why?
Because see the amount of things we had to deal with in the police with Snapchat, and revenge porn is a huge one in schools now. Oh, it's not even revenge porn, it's like, the amount of times you had to deal with things where it's a boy will convince a lassie that, you know, she loves it, you know, you love you to bits, not send me a photo. She sends me a photo, what's the first thing a teenage boy does? Screenshot.
Aye.
Send to the WhatsApp group chat or the Snapchat group chat they
that's
use.
just awful.
And then the whole school, next thing the lassies can't go into school, she's mental, you know, real traumatised. Whereas it happens all the way around, the guy thinks it's great, you know, because guys generally speaking only send a photo if there's something to be proud of. That's the reality. That is the reality. But with and the amount of times we were dealing with that, and the police just made
Really?
me
Cammy, that's
absolutely
awful.
terrified.
I'm sure there was something done, Alison, something at school where they put how far a tweet or a Snapchat could travel, like, you know, once it's out there, and it's like it's everywhere. You know, it's, you know, there's that. It's the whole digital footprint of, and you know, once you put something out there, whether you delete it or not, it's still there.
Yeah,
you know, it's
it's
still
still out there.
Well, we've all seen those things we get sent on WhatsApp from things that are that have happened, a bit of scandal or whatever, and it's like everybody gets it, you know. Are you doing our Davies laugh? That's what are you talking about?
WhatsApp? What's WhatsApp?
What is Snapchat? What is Snapchat?
we still play Snake over
I was
there.
like, what's up? What's up?
Snake
the
is
Nokia
brilliant.
3210 Snake.
See, just as a wee side note back, maybe it would be good to do a wee overview of Arran and how many people live there and stuff, just for people listening who don't.
Yes, actually, it explains a bit more about the Isle of Arran. Yeah, we've went on a good tangent already.
Isle of Arran, well, it's just off the west coast of Scotland, off the Ayrshire coast between Ayrshire and Kintyre. It's 56 mile to go around it, although it's 100 yards
that's
longer
right.
the other way because you're outside the road.
Interesting.
That is a good fact.
There's about 4,000 folk stay on it, like permanent homeowners, but in the summertime it'll go up to probably 15,000 folk.
Wow.
That's about like the visitors and all that. But the populate, like the age demographic now is getting off this. You know, it's very high to the older. You know, the older folk is becoming.
But I think is the average age in Arran not in retirement age?
I would think it could be at our local village, like Shiskin, and they have like a Christmas party for kids and a Christmas party for senior citizens. So the kids is from 0 to primary 7, and then the senior citizens with retirement age. I think the kids party had about 25 kids at it, and the senior citizens had over 200.
Wow.
So it shows you just the
different
split,
demographic,
and a lot of second homeowners now as well.
Right.
A lot
okay.
of second homeowners.
Is that not crippling the place?
Yeah.
Because like it cripples the shops in the winter, and there's nobody there.
Aye, it's definitely there's. You see it like it's at Christmas time. They all or at New Year. They all the village looks totally different because everybody's over on holiday and they've got all the lights are switched on and all that. And it comes the middle of January, like place is just in darkness. So it's hard. It's like for young folk trying to get houses, and that's just damn near impossible.
Yeah, it is expensive. Yeah.
Oh, I think a average house price will be probably be touching 300.
Really?
Aye, 250, 300 anyway. There'll be nothing. Plots of ground are 150 plus.
Yeah.
That's before you can build the thing.
And one thing with Arran, it's quite a mountainous, quite rugged terrain compared to some other islands we have in Scotland. You know, Bute being an example, if anyone knows the islands. Even the Western Isles is nowhere near as steep as...
Well, some will be.
In fact, maybe, I don't know if it... but there's nothing, but none, even the Western Isles, as the kind of heights that Arran has.
I don't actually know that, no. But it's,
In fact, there's a thing, is Goat Fell...
it's not a mountain.
No, it's not.
No.
But it'll be the highest. I would think it's the highest peak of any island. Oh no, Skye.
Skye, the Collins.
Skye.
Yeah.
Skye. I'm
Aye.
talking
Yeah.
absolute nonsense. Do you know the problem with Skye is?
It's not an island.
It's not an island. That's why I don't even consider Skye. It's,
No.
and I'm going to upset people here. But see, because you can just drive to Skye,
It's different
I don't
then.
even think of it in my head as an island. So that'll upset some people. But so anyone that ever wants to go to the Isle of Skye, you can actually just drive there over the Skye
Like,
Bridge.
we were one of the problems that just now with the boat, and some folk are saying, "Oh, let's build a bridge and all that." And but it's never going to happen. But I wouldn't want a bridge anyway because you'd be connected to the mainland.
Yes.
And then somebody come up with an idea. Well, we should just build a bridge to Bute and just connect the two islands because Bute have got a far better boat service. So
Then you've got 4 options of a boat in the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting thing it was a video about building a bridge to Northern Ireland.
yeah, that's right. Is it a tunnel?
And how, well, this particular video was about a bridge, but it was like 320 billion to build it from Scotland. The worst problem is the best route is from Galloway in southwest Scotland
Aye.
to obviously Belfast, Larne, wherever. But it's so hard to get to Galloway in the first place.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
So you'd spend 320 billion, but there's no roads.
The infrastructure's not there to get to.
No, it's an absolute
Yeah.
nightmare. So yeah, I don't think it's ever going to happen. But
So that Arran, it'll be about 4,000 folk. But,
and incidentally, 320 billion's about what they've spent on this new boat for Arran. They could have built a bridge by now. So there's obviously, what are the difficulties of farming on an island?
Boats, everything you buy, feeding wise and all that's got to come in, and everything you sell has got to go out. So you're 100% reliant on the ferry service. It's quite challenging at the moment, to say the least. We're having problems with all the time with the boats, but there's benefits to it as well. You know, it's an island, so health status wise, we should be as safe as anywhere. But it's just getting same as everyone, getting farmers to agree to do health things. It's not the easiest.
Did you see that thing in the front of the Scottish Farmer last week about scab?
No.
Front page of Scottish Farmer. Shetland has now got everybody that any sheep come onto Shetland, they get dipped. I think it's in at the market. They've bought a dipper. Everything gets dipped,
right.
going scab free. And as part of the programme, the vets were blood testing every ram that was bought and brought back to the island. 1 in 8 had scab and no sign.
1 in 8?
And no signs. 1 in 8.
You are joking.
Mental. And no sign of it. But they had it. That's crazy,
quite
isn't
scary.
it? That's
That is
crazy.
scary.
Crazy. So that was it was a headline. It was the front page of Scottish Farmer last week's.
But I think most folk, when they buy a tip, will treat it as if it has got scab.
I think
You
we're
know,
getting
if
better
you-
now.
you know, they're
Most of them will
kinda-
give it a Dectomax if they can. Yeah.
There's there's talk of there's a kind of resistance to Dectomax now with scab.
Do you know the problem with doing a tup with Dectomax is a lot of people have in their head Dectomax, it's 2.5 mil or 3 mil.
Aye.
Is what you give them, but it's 1 per 33 kilo.
I would say it's 66.
So you really, you buying these big tups, these
Yeah.
big Texel tups, whatever, you really need to be weighing that tup before you jag it.
You'd be talking 4 mil anyway.
Oh, yeah, at least. Some of these tups, could be 140 kilos and something, depending on who's buying them. But yeah, you really need to be. And then your problem is, buy a bottle of Dectomax for 1 jag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there's not as many people do it as probably should.
Or they'll have a bottle and they'll keep it to next year. Oh, it's a year out of date, it'll no matter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's...
The big thing for me, like, we now dip later because, it suited us to dip earlier because we get the fly strike benefit of dipping the sheep earlier. But actually, we'd dip and then we'd buy some tups or we'd buy sheep and then they've missed the dip.
Yeah.
So now we just hold it right back till
Yeah.
everything's bought, including tups, and they all get dipped.
Oh, we do the same. It was Dectomax we used, so we just waited till everything's bought on. And once you've bought everything, then Dectomax them.
Yeah.
Rather than doing it as they come on, like your lambs tips, that just doing them as they come on. Wait until everything's there and then jag.
Because another issue with islands, hard to get, dipping contractors over to dip. Hard to get the shearing done as well. Thank God for Big Stuart McMaster.
One of the best shearers in Ayrshire.
Yes. Well, there's not many of us, so that's easy. But no, he is a very good shearer.
No, that's just it. Well, we get the Willie Skillen. He sends boys over from Kintyre.
Yes.
So, but again, it's getting them over. They'll do their kind of Kintyre customers first, and then come over to them.
And what is the issue with the boat? What is happening?
There was 2 new boats supposed to come 2018. So they're now, 5-6 years late. The Glensannox should be here. They're talking about coming this summer, June, July time. Whether it comes, it's in the water and they have sailed it, but whether it actually gets approved, gets MC approval and it's fit to come on. So 2 of them aren't here. So then the fleet is dependent on these 2 boats coming in to replace older vessels. So we were left with the Calais Isles and Arran. Arran's 41-year-old, the Calais Isles is 31-year-old. So the Calais Isles is our main vessel. So it went for its refit there in January, and they don't know when it'll be back because 2/3 of the hull was thin metal.
From the years of
Between the
erosion.
hull and the ballast tanks underneath it. So that's out of action till, well, they've actually done the timetables now, it's out of action all summer. So if it goes back early, it's a bonus. So at the moment we've got the Arran, which Calais takes 1,000 folk and around about 100 cars. The Arran takes 400 folk and maybe 70 cars.
But like, that sounds like a lot. Like, to me, I think 100 cars, that's a lot. But it's like nothing. It's a nightmare.
You can't get bookings.
It's a nightmare.
If you're online just now, there is no bookings available for a car or a foot passenger until after the Easter weekend. They've just taken all the bookings out the system.
Oh my
mad.
God.
It's absolute
You know,
nightmare.
So as a residents on Arran, it's like being trapped.
Oh, yeah, and it's killing the businesses as well.
The
Yeah.
tourism. I mean, like the boy sent me a thing there. I think in January it was 27% down on car spaces and 25% down in passenger spaces because the because we're
smaller
running lesser
boat.
capacity. And I think February was about 50% down. It's something like 250,000 foot passengers and I can't remember, like 17 or 20,000 car spaces less just in the
2
first 3 months of the year. So they've got another boat coming out of Troon Alfred. It'll start. We're hoping to get going at Easter time, but it's the reputation. If folk want to come on holiday and they go online to try and book it and it's not available,
They're not.
they don't pick up a phone and phone somebody. They say
Try somewhere else."
We'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
We'll go to Butte. We'll go to we'll go somewhere else. So the two like whole accommodation providers, they're getting absolutely hammered with it, and even health service, they can't get staff over. Can't get carers. Teachers can't get over.
Aging population, another massive issue on Arran, getting staff to look after people in care
They
homes.
built a new like an old folks home there maybe 10 years ago. They can't get staff to. They can't. They're running. I think they're running at just under half capacity because they can't get enough staff to work in it. So it's
Yeah.
and there's no priority for like residents on the boat. You
just
just
a free-for-all.
it's whoever books first. And if you're going on holiday, see you're coming to Arran the first week in July, you know you're going Saturday the 1st of July.
Yeah, so you booked
So you
it.
can pick up the phone and book it. Whereas if we get a hospital appointment or something like that and you've got to go away,
Then-
you go online. They do have a thing, an emergency pass for if you've got to go off island for a
Medical.
medical emergency.
Right,
They
okay.
they'll get you. They'll make a space somehow. But for just routine stuff, you can't get it. So like even folk go to funerals and stuff. Like folk have missed their families' funerals and all that, and it's hard going for the folk.
And talk about getting the animals off. You're the first people that get cancelled if there's a breeze or anything at all. Is that right?
Yeah, they've put in guidelines for transporting livestock. A kind of scale of it's fine, it's dodgy, they're not going at all, sort of thing. So it was a blanket thing, whether it was a pickup and trailer with half a dozen sheep or a 40-foot Arctic with 300 lambs. It didn't matter. It was livestock stop. It was that. So through the NFU, myself and Calmac, we redone the guidelines so
Okay.
that if you can't be turned up with a lorry with 40 beasts in it, and I was there with a pickup with 2 cows or 2 sheep in it, something like that, there would be a discussion like he's dangerous or it's more risky for him.
Yep.
But the smaller one is okay to go. So that was all brought in maybe 3-4 years ago, and it was on paper it was great, but they don't. Calmac get it. They give it to the captains rule the roost because their decision is final.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the manager says you should go. No, it's actually I think it's against the law to try and force a captain to change his decision. They can't if they say no. That's it. Which it's their responsibility. So I get it.
Yeah.
But we did it a number of times. But last year we were getting a tip, and it was coming up from down south, and on away in the boat, 8:20 boat. Fine, there was no issue. There was no word of cancellations and like that. Got to Ardrossan, message goes, no livestock for the remainder of the day. And of course, the girl was bringing the tip up for Wales. It was coming through Innivis, so she was bringing it up for Wales, and I was meeting her at Erskine somewhere. I'm like, what the hell do we do here? So I phoned the manager and I said, look, he was just new. He was kind of fairly new in the job, and I said, look, you haven't actually followed the guidelines. The captain hasn't done it, the right guidelines. So he had a slight heated conversation where at one point he actually threatened to block my number from his phone, and he would never speak to NFU Scotland again if I continued with this with my questioning. And I'm like, Martin Kennedy might not like me if I get in this route, but
Yeah.
I was listening. No, he's wrong.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, that's fine. I says, your guidelines aren't being followed. And he goes, well, David, I think the captain understands the guidelines far better than you ever could. I said, see, when you read your guidelines, get to the back page and see whose names are on there for who wrote these guidelines. What do you mean? I says, just do it. And I put the phone down. Half an hour later, he phoned me back. Yes, we'll take you. But that's what I said to him. I says, if that had been somebody else that didn't know the guidelines,
Yeah, they wouldn't have.
they would have just said, oh,
Just tough.
we're stuck.
Yeah.
So there's supposed to be a conversation takes place if it's an alert as to what animals can be taken and all that. Just before Christmas, we were going away with lambs, going the 10 to 2 boat. 1:25, they announced that they weren't taking livestock.
Oh my.
And you're like,
You're sitting there with the lambs loaded.
Sat at the pier with the lambs loaded. And you're like, what are you doing here? So again, on that man, the manager, the first manager spoke, he's since left the company. So I phoned another one, and he's like, you've got to be kidding me. They can't, the rules, it's there in black and white. He says, look, there's nothing we can do now because the boat's gone, and they were coming up to Paisley, and it shuts at like 3 o'clock, or, the Paisley were actually staying open late for us to put the lambs in, just because we couldn't get up any earlier. I said, look, we can't go now. So that was that. She said, no, this won't happen again. 2 weeks ago, another boy was going to be dairy heifers, sat at the pier. He was going the 8:20, 7:57. We're not taking your livestock. And you're like, what is the point? What's the point in going through all these guidelines and getting them in place with a bit of common sense in them? If it's a howling wet, windy day, I get it. But no, when it's just a slight breeze. We actually phoned, when we were doing the guidelines, I was like, they just don't get a clue. They don't get it. So we phoned Ifor Williams, and I asked them to get through to their design team. And I said to the guy, I said, look, see when you're designing your trailers, do you run models as to what angle the trailer has to be at for it to topple? And the guy's like, why are you even asking me this question? I said, well, I explained the situation. He goes, well, if the boat's at such an angle that the trailer's toppling, the livestock's the least of the boat's worries.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Especially an eye for Williams, different. Maybe a big high lorry.
Yeah,
but
like you get an Arctic of that.
Yeah.
But, an eye for Williams trailer's not going to...
No.
Although I managed to do it in Glasgow once, but...
That was more a road conditions error,
yeah,
was it not?
definitely.
Yes.
But it's just, there's just no... They don't see reason.
I mean, I give an example though how ridiculous and how temperamental it is. I think I was over maybe 6 times for scanning this year, and 3 times there was boat cancellations boat cancellations basically out of those 6 times. When we're picking times, albeit one time we knew the weather was ropey, so that was fair enough. But the other 2 times, clear, decent. The last one was because there's 20 mile an hour wind.
See,
There's always a 20 mile an hour wind in the West Coast.
the redone Brodick Pier, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, they spent 30-40 million on it, built this big fancy new pier, but they pointed it towards Ardrossan. So the kind of worst winds in Arran is the east winds.
Okay.
And of course, in the east wind, the pier's on stilts, so the water can go underneath. It's not a solid pier. So a bit of east wind, they can't dock alongside it. Whereas before, we never had an issue with east wind. Didn't matter how windy it was, because of the alignment of the old pier, they could tie up on it. Now they built this pier at the east wind, out pointing Millport, and that doesn't go into it. So east wind over 20 mile an hour, the boat goes in alert. So if it goes in alert, folk don't come because they're less. I don't want to go and get stuck. Southwest winds over 25 mile an hour can't get into Ardrossan. So I don't want to go there either. So
It is. I think folk don't. It's on the news for people out with Scotland. You won't even have heard of it, but it's in the news in Scotland probably every 2 months. Like BBC Scotland or the news will do an update on it, and because it's such a drama now, it's disgraceful.
So these new boats are coming. So they were here in 2018. The design remit of the boats were build 2 new boats that get in and out of Ardrossan Harbour in its current status, its current state. The 2 new boats that are built can't get into Ardrossan, and you're like.
I thought it was just the big boat can't get to Ardrossan. None of them can get...
the Crystalyx or the Glenrose. They're basically identical, the 2 new ones. Neither of them can fit in Ardrossan.
What's the big one that launched with no windows?
Crystalyx.
That's the Crystalyx, right? Do you hear about that one? No, they were desperate. You better to tell the story.
So they were desperate to get it into to get it launched. Because it was running so late, they wanted it out of launch. Big thing, wee nickel there, where wee bottle of champagne, launching the thing.
It's a normal size bottle.
So... The bridge, with the captain and all that, they've done it with plywood, and they put plywood windows on, like black.
But painted it black.
Black
so
windows.
It looked like windows for the ground. It looked like windows, but it was just plywood.
That is horrendous.
That's what they've done.
So bad. I know, just to make it look like it's all going to plan. Like,
Come on.
terrible, isn't it?
So as I say, they were supposed to be designed to get in and out of Ardrossan. They don't fit in Ardrossan. So they're now.
Ardrossan is the town where the pier is, for anyone wondering. Yeah.
So they're now they're looking at upgrading Ardrossan, like making it, the boats suitable for the boats. So they'll relocate to Troon for the kind of 2 to 3 years to do the work on Ardrossan. But nobody in Arran's got confidence in them actually doing Ardrossan right, because they built Brodick 40 million and it's no right. 300 million in 300 million in 2 new boats that aren't even in the water, and we don't know whether they're right or not. And they'll be talking another 40, 50 million in Ardrossan. Ardrossan's the best place for it if they do it right, because it's got a train link, and for the onward journeys it's far better. But it's just a mess. At the folks say, "Oh, it can't get any worse." Well, it's not going to get any better for the next 2 or 3 years, because when we go to Troon,
Even when you get this boat, it's not that easy to get it in.
no. When we go to Troon, it's 15, 20 minutes longer a sailing.
Right.
So over the course of a day, instead of getting 5
get
returns a
less
day,
sailings.
we only get 4. So we're
You
straight away.
end up at the same capacity you were before you got the new boat.
And the way things are going, you'll no need capacity anyway, because nobody will be coming. Because when folk come in all the time, they bring their kids. So the kids then get an attachment with
Yep.
Arran as holiday, going there as their childhood. So they then come back as holiday makers. But if you lose the parents, you lose the kids, and then that's that generation. They don't have that connection with going to Arran and holidays. So you lose that connection with folk. So as I say, it's no easy at all. You just bookings. Well, even there now, nobody sends messages anymore, like old style messages. So when I get a message on my phone, you know it's something to do with Cal Mac. Sitting there the day, the boat's broken down and it's running an hour late now. So when we go away for a day, we take an overnight bag with us.
Really?
Because you expect
Even if the weather's good,
if the weather's good, it'll break down.
it'll break down.
And if it's weather's bad, you'll get stuck. It's
nightmare.
just somebody said you couldn't Google it. You couldn't.
You can make this up.
Uh-huh.
Aye. I know it is absolutely short. I mean, even I thought they need to spend 50 million at a pier. But the Scottish Government, in fact, I'll tell you what I think about Scottish Government's ideas on islands after this little advert that we'll slot in right now.
Most foragers don't supply sheep and cattle with enough cobalt, copper, iodine and selenium, critical to digestion, immunity, reproduction and growth. When it comes to supplementation, there's a danger of under or oversupply. But when bolusing with Animax Tracesure, you can be sure every animal has enough for up to 6 months in one single application. Animax, giving what it takes.
So what I think is, no, it's not really what I think actually, but what, like the islands in general must be a massive drain on like the economy, like on the finances of the government.
Why?
Well, 40 million on a pier at Brodick on the island, 300 million for 2 boats, and then you're potentially 40 million if they actually go ahead with it, or 50 million at Ardrossan. Knowing the way things are now, it'll end up being 80 million
Oh, aye,
at Ardrossan, right? So you're in for the guts. You're getting close to $500 million spent on this one-way route from Ardrossan to Arran. The fares are subsidised. You can get a passenger ticket for what, £5?
I think it's about £5 return for a foot passenger.
That's unbelievable.
It's £10.50. Well, a long time since I got on the train. The last time I got the train from Kilmarnock to Glasgow, which is 20-ish miles on the train, was about £10.50. So nearly double what it is to.
To go in the
That's
boat.
mad.
Well, they brought in a thing called the road equivalent tariff. So it'll basically cost you the same to go in the boat as it would cost you to travel that distance if you're doing it on land.
If you were driving it,
But
the
that's-
cost of petrol.
But that's
Well,
good
I
for
don't know,
tourism.
there was a kind of a figure, a multiplier
Yeah, I
they
made something
used
up.
to work it out.
Yeah.
But they put the cart before the horse, because they put in these cheap fares that the boats weren't capable. You know, if you have something,
You get more people.
everybody's going to start using
okay.
it.
Yeah.
So the boats weren't ready for the capacity. The island's infrastructure, like roads, accommodation, all that, it wasn't ready for the influx of passengers.
No.
And now all these folk are still coming, but the infrastructure's falling to bits, and they're like, well,
Not coming back.
And that's what's happening now. They've been put off.
So what? Probably the best thing the RET could have been done was if it was brought in for islanders only.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
If somebody's coming to Arran to pay, like say they're coming for a self-catering accommodation, they'll probably pay £1,000 a week for a house. 30 quid to get your car over for the week's nothing. See if you'd made made that 60, 70 quid.
I know, it's
you'd still
ridiculous.
pay it.
It's
You know,
ridiculous.
so
I find it astonishing that the residents don't get a perk.
No.
Like that it's not
there's no
cheaper
discount.
for
no.
Whereas, like, I'm sure with Northlink ferries, is it Northlink? The ferry. I'm sure, or no, maybe it's flights. No, it's flights. Sorry, I take it back. Yeah, locals get cheaper flights, but not.
I wouldn't
not
say
in the ferry.
I
I don't
wouldn't
think.
say it was cheaper. I think you would say that the visitors pay more.
Yeah.
You rather than saying somebody gets it cheaper, you just say, well, you actually pay more. You know,
But what I was going to say is they put £500 million into all this. I'll never see any of that back. Because that's £500 million now. Before they recoup half of that, there'll be a breakdown in the boat that will cost them £500,000.
the boat,
You know,
the boat will be 8-year-old before it's in service.
what does that mean?
Well,
Before you actually get it.
The boat will
Yeah.
actually be 8-year-old.
The hull will be rotted. It'll be rusted. It'll be rusted.
Well, I think a boat's lifespan's about 20-25 years.
You're joking. So it's already sat in the water for the guts. Well, been in the water for 3 years. 3 years. Or 4.
No, it'll be. I think it was before COVID it was launched.
Aye, so 4 years.
4 or 5 years,
So it's already been in the water for 4 or 5
That is
years.
mad.
When the engines start, it'll be its warranty. Because it's because they've been in it so long. That's what somebody said. It's, the engines have been in it for 5 or 6 years. It's just
Yeah, it's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
aye, but it's a disaster. It's having a disastrous effect on the
And you
island,
guys.
on the island
Yeah.
as well. Like folk
Absolutely.
you wouldn't if we could pick up the farm and move it to the mainland, you would do it.
Oh yeah.
Of course you would.
I mean, there is benefits. Like the stuff will be we're fairly safe. There's
Yeah, you
no
don't
much
need to take
stuff.
the key out the quad bike.
Well, we do obviously.
Well, for the purpose of this podcast, you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although we did have the incident with a push bike one night. I got up one morning. I'm like, there's a bike in the garden. I'm like, that looks a bit like my bike. So I never thought, I'm like, all right, okay. So I went down and got it. It was my bike. And it was in a shed. It wasn't just a normal door to open. It was like an old hay bob thing that you had to pop the door to get the door open. I'm like, oh, that's a bit weird. And then I thought, well, I wonder who was in the local pub last. I thought first of all somebody just returned it after borrowing it a couple of weeks earlier. And then I was down in the pub on the Sunday, and I say who was in last night, and there was a couple of names come up, and I'm like, right, I know exactly who it was. So it was aforementioned Mr. McMaster. It was his brother Neil. He decided he was walking home. He got as far we were maybe about a mile away from the pub. He decided that he wasn't walking any further. He was going to go in and get our bike. So he went in, got the bike. Now from the bike shed to the road end is maybe 100 yards. And there's a bridge. He's got to cross over a burn. He fell off the bike 4 times between there and
Just flung it in the garden.
He just flung it in the garden and walked home.
Brilliant. I thought you talked about the time I went for Arran show, then cycled for the boat the next morning.
Did you?
Yeah. Because I had to get the early boat for something, I can't remember, and everybody was too drunk to drive. I just says, just leave me a push bike, I'll just get up early and cycle. But of course, Arran's a bloody hard place to cycle, especially when you're hungover. So yeah, it was a fair mission.
And
it was
the bikes with the clip-in pedals.
That's right, but I just did it with my normal shoes, so I could hardly hold on anyway. It was.
I think it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. You told us you were going for the first boat. And like,
I had to set off
You're
early.
not driving you.
Aye. It was good. It was good crack. That's right. That was a few years ago now. But there was also a good story. Davey knows this, but I worked in Arran for 6 or 7 months with the police.
Did you?
So they used to do a summer secondment,
Right.
and basically because the numbers of people swell so much in the summer, they need more police cover. So rather than having cops, you have your fixed cops that are there all year that are good for the winter population, and then you have some summer cops come in. It's just a wee thing you can add on your CV and experience different things. It's a bit of crack. So I was over there, and it was a doddle. I mean, it's a good place. I did have one of the biggest cases in Ireland history actually while I was there that I can't really go into on air, but cause it's quite a touchy subject. But yeah, there was a big scandal at the time when I was there that I'll tell you about later, and I definitely shouldn't talk about it on here in case I get libelled for something. But yeah, some well-known people. But yeah, so we had that big event, but there's some great stories. Like there was a story. I know, I better not tell these stories actually. Just actually as I think them. No, because islands are too small and everybody knows that. So I'll just leave it. I'll not tell any stories.
See police men and women who are based on Arran all the time, do they get paid just the same as Like if you were in Edinburgh or Glasgow.
So the police on Arran, the one difference with being a police officer on an island like Arran is that you get a house provided.
Okay.
So the police own some houses. Oh, that's a kind of an issue for Police Scotland as well because they're so broke, they're so skint. It's maintaining a house and
Yeah.
but they've owned them for years and years, most of them now. So that's one thing less. You then get an island living allowance because everything's slightly more expensive in the island.
Okay.
So your fuel's more expensive, the co-op's more expensive. Everything's more expensive than. But I say everything. Most things are more expensive than the mainland. So you get your island living allowance. You also get on-call money. So because they don't have a night shift on the island, because there's no real need for it,
Yeah.
you'll be a couple of everybody will take a turn of being on call certain nights.
So how many police people would be on Arran?
I think there's four plus a sergeant,
No, I think it's 4,
including the
I
sergeant.
think it's 4 including the sergeant. Aye.
Right, okay.
Sergeant plus
That's
3.
Aye.
But it used to be
That's
like
quite a lot for the size van. But then when you look at it 7 days a week, it's 24 hours a day.
exactly. You need
Yeah.
to cover.
Yeah.
Well, you need to cover the day shift all the time plus annual leave and
Yeah, of course.
And it used to be the summer was like Easter to October, but the tourist seasons was like 12 months a year. So they could probably do, they're getting a lot of folk. There's more folk all year round, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Plus they put in a lot of kind of council housing type thing, and they're getting folk over from Ayrshire
Yeah.
and different non-local.
I would say Arran has a rougher demographic than a lot of islands. Well, I say a lot of islands. It'd have a rougher demographic than Butte, I would think.
Okay, I was going to ask what made you make your decision to go organic?
Money.
It wasn't our decision.
Same reason everyone does it. Sorry,
Right.
when you go.
It wasn't our decision. So that it's an estate place, and the person that was on the current contractor was coming out.
Okay.
So we went in. I think they just started the organic conversion. So when we went in, they started, but I think organic scares folk. The word organic, it's actually not as restrictive as you would think.
Okay.
I would think quite a lot of sheep farmers in Scotland are at least halfway to being organic.
Yeah.
And it's just
When we're virtually organic, because the only things we don't really apply fertilizer or any of those chemicals, and everything you're about to say it. I think anything you do with the sheep, you just need the vet to say.
animal welfare always becomes ahead of organic. So if you need to dose them or you need to jag them or do whatever, as long as you get the vet to say, yep, that they need that, it's they can't do that, they can't do it, but it is a fertiliser. It's basically what you put on the ground is more what the organic folk are not against, but are more concerned about, shall we say. You've got organic and you've got normal. I think you should almost have one in the middle, like a traditional system, where you can do little bits of fertiliser or apply, like if you're reseeding something, you should be able to put on a fertiliser or something like that. But no, it's not as restrictive as what we thought it was going to be. Certainly for sheep, if you've got cattle and you're needing to grow crops, and it's dependent then
Tough to make
on the
silage.
ground system, on the ground quality. If your farm's in good health, when you go into the system, you'll be able. It's a 5-year process. I think it's 5 years. But the first 2 years we just in the ground. It was the third year before we started converting the sheep. So this year was the first year that we sold lambs that could go as organic. But again, there's nowhere can kill them. There's very few places in Scotland.
Does Paisley not do organic?
No.
Right.
No.
So where can you kill organic
I think
lambs?
there's only somewhere down the borders.
Right.
Aye, there's very
Why
few
does it
places.
matter where you kill them?
Because it's how the system's cleaned, what they could get not contaminated with, but in the slaughterhouses, you can't just, I could have put 10 lambs in the day that were non-organic and put 10 lambs in beside them that are organic. It's not.
Right.
Do you know, when I worked at Dumfries House, I spoke to the man who helped put together the organic principles and the process, and he basically said they need to be ripped up and thrown out because they're outdated and they're done, and there's so many things like that that
The key word now is regenerative. Is that right?
regenerative, and he is a big man for the regenerative agriculture, because it's barriers like that that are stopping farmers, which is just
And
ridiculous.
you can't even. So say if we put organic lambs into Paisley. We can't even sell them as organic. You cannot use the word organic or any form of the word organic to advertise them if they haven't been the whole process organic.
It's almost as extreme as the halal thing.
Yeah.
Aye.
But then, because that was our barrier at Dumfries House, because it's organic, but we couldn't sell our beef or lamb because there was nowhere to kill it. And I said that, and he said, you just do organically reared locally.
I don't think they even like that. Any use of the word organic is frowned upon, because I said, could we say they're organically grown or organically reared? And they're like, no, we're not too sure on that. So it's a huge...
Which is mad as well, because your sheep will get all the same treatments my sheep get.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because as you said, animal welfare is more important than organic status. So there's a lot of loopholes for getting... And
I think it will be thrown out. It will be thrown out. And it's,
I think it certainly needs to be looked or kind of tweaked. You know, it's probably, I think it was been a number
we'll
of years
head to
ago.
this regenerative... and I think more and more of your, certainly folk that are doing contracts with Marks and Spencers and stuff for lambs, you'll see maybe some more hoops to jump through in that regard.
Yeah.
Like milk.
Yeah,
like
I'll become that.
But then it's a tricky one as well, because supermarkets can only pay so much, and lamb prices, you know, the export job's stronger than the supermarket job at the moment, so why jump through the hoops?
Aye.
And is there a difference between the lambs you're selling that are organic and the ones that are non-organic?
The non-organic are, so at home we're Scotch Mule to Texel. The organic ones are Cheviot. They're all Cheviot lambs.
Right, okay.
So we keep all the yow lambs. Every yow lamb's kept, but some of them go to grazing, and it's non-organic. So they then lose their status, so they can't come back into the flock.
Right,
we keep half the yow lambs on the estate for replacements, and the rest we just put to the grazing and sell them.
Do you get a ewe hog scheme on that estate?
I think they do. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. And so ewe hog scheme, okay. And then do you keep all those ewe hogs?
They'll keep half of them.
Yeah,
about half of them. Aye. Quite a few of them actually stay on the island, not with us. You know, they'll go. We've got regular buyers on the island, so it's quite good.
For ewe lambs?
Yep.
That's good.
So
are they willing to pay £180 for a Cheviot ewe lamb?
we'll find out.
That's the dilemma. I tell you, that is the dilemma.
See, there's
a lot of ewe lambs. We went to draw some today, and then I just didn't have the heart for it. I was like, just keep them all. I was like, not because just because there's nothing that wrong with them. I was like, we need the breeding sheep. Let's just keep them. But it's hard, like when they come 170 quid.
I don't think breeding sheep will be the same prices, but as fat lambs. You know, I think fat lambs just now. I can't see folk who buy breeding sheep paying
no, they won't
any more than what they would pay.
By the price of fat lambs just now, mule gimmers should be £300.
Well, you look at the price of cash yows. You know, cash yows are,
aye, exactly. A good mule gimmer should be £300, but she won't be.
She better not be.
She better not be. Aye. But they won't be. But then that goes back to our previous topic. You know, we're talking with Rob Atkinson, that who buys the stuff. Like, it's a bit different because there's more customers for fat lambs than there is for breeding sheep.
Yeah, because I think less folk are wanting to lamb sheep.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you said. And calf cows.
Yep.
I mean, Chris, you know what it's like trying to work with cow. You're having all sorts of... Tell us about some of your woes with cattle recently.
We had a cow last Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday night, calved. On the camera watching it. Nice. It was a pure limmy heifer. Nice wee calf out. That was no bother. Looked in the camera about half an hour later, full calf bed out.
Which is like a...
basically the womb.
The womb out, yeah, I was going to say how you describe that for a human. Like, yeah, basically the whole womb falling out.
Everything came out. But we got it. I've got a picture. I'll show you the pictures.
Did you do it yourself?
Or no. That was a vet job.
Is that a stitch in job?
Aye. You
put it back in.
Put it back in, but you're trying to push this big thing back in. You're pushing a balloon through a keyhole sort of thing, and you've got to be careful you don't burst it. Because that's the worst. You know, you burst it, you're jigger.
Yeah.
So no, touch wood. It's back in. Stitch it back in, and the calf was up, and she's fine with the calf. So
you can see why folk just want to buy store cattle. Sheep's the same.
Well, we've got this year with the new bull we bought didn't work. But the cows are about 5 miles up the road, so we just go up and see them once a day, and you just get around counting them. They're all there.
Yep.
So you're probably not noticing them bull, or if they're coming back and all that. So that's the bull's not worked. He was steam and tested prior to sale. Tested at the sale, and then when we got him home, like after we'd PD'd the cows, he then came out and he was infertile with no chance of recovery.
Aye.
So what would have caused that?
Could be an illness. We thought maybe with the extreme temperature in June, July, that would maybe give him something. But if it had been extreme temperature in June, July, he should have recovered. It was in
By the time you
October,
found out, he
November.
should have been.
He should have been back firing on cylinders, but it can just happen. He just an illness in him.
So it's a fortune lost.
Yeah, lost the bull, but so he's insured, but you don't lose that. You don't get the lost earnings. You know
All the
Yeah,
time now the
yeah.
cows are sat not productive, which
Aye.
is what 5 months. Well, how long between bulling and scanning? 5 months, 4 months.
Well, kind of June to October, November. Again, scanning was maybe a wee bit later because you can't get boats. You can't. So it's Alan Walker from Malcolm that comes over.
Oh, right.
So trying to get him over, he wants to come the 7 o'clock boat, so he gets a full day.
Yep.
Again,
Yeah.
the 7 o'clock boat's invariably the one that's cancelled, and you get him booked, and they cancel it, and you can't get another booked for 3 or 4 weeks. So we're not. Calmac have started working with to, like, say, for vets, farriers, that kind of stuff, that they are prioritising them to get.
So
to get.
are there any vets on Arran?
Yep, I've got one Arran vets, so we use it. We use them as well. But Alan comes over to do like kind of scanning, castrating, dehorning,
Yeah.
that kind of bigger jobs. So, no, Alan's fine. He quite enjoys coming over for a wee day out.
Yeah, something different.
So I would have the bulls, but so have you spoke about the health scheme thing? You know, when you can buy, you get paid if you're doing testing for like your worm counts and your eggs, where you get your £250. You know,
Do we all get that? Or is that an island thing?
No, that's all. Well, I think we'll maybe get more. I'm not sure. No, it's when you can do like you can check for your worm counts and your sheep, semen tests and bulls and all that. You're allowed to do.
You're getting paid for it, or you get it paid for you.
You're allowed to do. I think it's 2 each year, and you get £250 for each one.
Okay,
I think,
towards the cost.
I think in the first year you get 750,
Okay.
and then you can do it over.
Yes, there's a big push to get sheep blood tested and stuff.
You can do it like blood testing sheep, blood testing cows, and all that. You can do it. You can do semen test bulls and that, but they don't do sheep. They don't semen test bull. The semen test in their tips isn't in the scheme.
Right. Okay.
Why?
Don't know. Don't know why it's not on it. And again, I think a lot. Is it 1 in 10 tips are semen faulty?
Is that right?
1
in 10 tips sold at the time of sale. Yeah.
Aye.
And
Now,
then
they might not be knackered, but they might be. They might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sometimes
lower.
take a bit of time to recover.
Aye.
Listening, hey, we see it a lot. Obviously, I'm around scanning a lot of places, and probably more this year than I've seen before. Having issues with tips.
Well,
Really?
we had a tip no work this year as well, but with tips, within 18 days.
Yeah, because
If you're putting,
Yeah.
if you're putting sire
change
signs
the
and all
crayon.
that,
Aye.
I'm trying to put the fear of God into you when I was telling you hadn't done the sire
I know,
signs.
there's a couple of them we didn't even change the tip, and unbelievable scan, but just pure luck. That's what I said to folk. Like, folk can go, "Oh, great scan, what'd you do?" Pure luck. Like it is.
He keeps sending me pictures of his scan results. He's annoying me.
We were going to go through them in our podcast.
Yeah, well, that was the problem. It's like I said to you, it's like I can't really send it to that many folk because they just think you're being a smart ass because
Yeah.
it was so good. Like,
It cheers me up. When I
which
read
I was, I was with David, but just because he can take it. But yeah, the a lot of infertile rams about.
Yeah.
So what
Definitely.
is that?
Oh, if I was to put my thoughts into it, I mean, one factor that I really dislike, and like I'll never buy a ram again that's in this category, is the amount of feeding that goes into them. Like, you imagine you have these tups are essentially the equivalent of teenagers, right? Let's say boys in the 18, let's say they're an 18-year-old boy. If you like force fed him, to the point where he's obese, and expect him to go out and do a job, like, you'd find some issues there too. And it's, I think we're confusing muscle and power with fat. Do you know?
But the farmers are at fault of that as well, because if you get a tip, if you get 2 tips in a sale ring, and one's a big heavy looking thing and one's a wee scrawny thing,
I know.
you're never going to buy that thing. And
No.
yet that's the one that will probably go out and do the damage, and in 6 months' time they'll look the same. At best they'll look the same.
Yeah.
So are you saying that the top being fed a lot is reducing the amount of semen he's producing, or like he's just feeling bloated, he can't be bothered?
No, I'm thinking obesity has an issue in fertility.
Aye.
Right, okay.
And a lot of these tups are obese.
Right, okay.
That is the reality. And there's other issues with that as well in terms of with kidneys and various other things. Feeding high levels of protein and just the high levels of concentrated feed. There's a lot of other issues with it as well. Whereas, and what put me off it was the last time I did it, bought it up, came home to me. He's obviously gone off the feed because I'm not feeding him.
And he's shrunk.
Out to work, and he comes back in an absolute skeleton.
Yeah.
And then he died. We then tried to give him a feed, but by that point,
he's gone.
and I know that he was like starved to death.
No.
But something inside him, like his mechanism for processing grass and whatever, just was gone, and he just wasted away. Whereas, and again, this isn't an advert for the boy, but like the tips now, all I buy is takes off Logie Durno, right? And I absolutely stand by them. I think they're bloody great things. And
Maybe you need to repeat that because that was very. I struggled to keep up with you there.
Sorry, I'm conscious. I don't want to be, because there's lots of good people breeding tups out there.
Yes.
It's just that I particularly work with Logie Durno tups. Like in the Texels, this will be my 4th or 5th year now working with them, and like they work, they don't melt, they're not. When they first come to me, and I put a picture on Facebook recently. When you put the first day you go to feed the tups after they've been working, I only feed them when they come back after they've been working just to keep them ticking over. They just stand and look at the trough. Do you know what I mean? It takes them a day or two. They learn pretty quick because every other tup's eating it. But it does, in the same shout out to the Animax guys too, we bought an Aberfield SR. It came back in, anyone that's been watching my videos, those, the Frontera we got from Logie, the Logie that we got from Logie Durno, that's their own breed, and the Aberfield SR, they went out, they did 90 ewes, all worked great, and they come back in, ready to go and do another 90 ewes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You seen the video I put up of moving the Frontera a wee shift after he'd done 90 ewes?
It was totally fine.
It was exact. I'm not just exaggerating. It was exactly the same as when we put them out.
But that goes into the hybrid vigour as well. That you're moving away from the softness.
Absolutely. You're right there. The hybrid vigour thing, but also the fact that there's no sudden change in diet when they come to me is a big factor. I put them out the ewes. Don't get me wrong, they're getting wintered on the very best of forage crops and turnips and stuff like that. I mean, but
they're feeding them out the ground rather than out a bag.
Yes,
Yeah.
There's a difference between feeding.
Yeah, you might get tups there that haven't been outside for 8 weeks.
but a lot of that. That's a good point as well.
So,
I mean, a lot of them are ad lib on
inside clipped.
yeah.
ad lib on a feeder. Aye.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, I'll be upsetting some people. Listen, I will be upsetting some people. But this podcast, I'm giving my views on it. Like, and I'm not saying for a second that all those ones are infertile or there's problems with them. Most of them aren't.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't. It's just, the odd one.
pretty.
And I'm not coming at it from that I've had an issue with infertility, because actually I haven't in that regard.
Clearly, third on the way.
I don't think I fall into that category. As a fertility expert. But my point is more that the wasting away factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
You're not getting the 4 or 5 years out of them. You're
No.
getting
Yeah.
No.
1, maybe 2.
And they're not fit to do
No.
as many sheep as they should be. I used to think, 50 sheep was enough for a tup. But I've come to realise that there's a lot of boys running them 100 sheep. Brave boys.
I would say that's
But look at those tups. They did 87 ewes each they had.
Again, I think it's quite...
Never missed a beat.
Depends where the ground they're going to. Like, so you're good ground in Ayrshire.
Yeah.
You could probably get away with that. If they're going to a harder place, it'll not...
Yeah, you need to farm to your conditions.
Aye.
But New Zealand I know New Zealand's a different thing again, but it's quite absolutely common to 100 plus, 150 ewes to a ram.
I mean, years ago...
Is it?
Oh, aye, absolutely.
We bought... We're just needing some blackie ewes, so we bought 15...
Because you're for the blackies, I know.
bought 15 blackie ewes up at UA, and they'd come from... I think they come from Col.
Wait a minute. Blackie's just got mentioned.
Oh,
that's
that's it.
taken
That's
a
all
while.
over.
That's... Whoa,
We're
over an hour.
Wow.
We bought these 15 blackie ewes for Col, and that was fine. But ran them with a blue tip, and then we went up just about kind of February time. I'm like, that's a lamb. What the hell's going on here? So they'd come from Col into the market on like that. So they stayed overnight in the market. There was one rig in with the sheep coming off a Col. He tipped half of them.
Hybrid vigour.
Exactly.
Hybrid vigour.
Highland hybrid vigour.
Yeah. We had to jag about 50 of the neighbours' sheep because we had a rig jumped in and went to town on them. That's
Should you
ugly.
maybe say what a rig is?
A rig is it's either a poorly castrated male, but quite often it's just one with one testicle that gets left at marking time, or it's just a crossbred thing that's still got its balls. You just call it a rig anyway.
How would you poorly castrate it?
Well,
Surely
if it's still fit,
surely it's either castrated or it's no.
well, you know, a lot of folk miss a ball or whatever. You know, you might say it still looks like it's a testosterone filled thing, but it's actually not fertile in that regard. There's a lot of people now are into this. You just castrate the sac. That's like an Aussie thing, I think, or a New Zealand thing.
What
You
does
just
that?
castrate the
What
sack.
does that mean?
And
You just push the balls up.
put the
way.
balls up, and it's because of the heat of the body, they're not fertile, but they still have the growth of in the testosterone of a ram.
Right, you try it first.
What?
I'm at that stage, mate. I'm ready to do it.
I don't understand.
It's just a method.
See, when you're pushing them up, are they in there forever?
there's nowhere to go because you take the sack off.
Where are you gonna
But then
put
what
it?
happens when they come?
They can't
So they
come
can't
back.
come
No,
back
it gets
down?
sealed.
It'll,
It gets
it'll
sealed.
basically you'll lose that the sack. It'll
And then-
seal up above it. Aye.
With
Yeah.
you.
Which actually seems really practical.
What's the benefit of that?
You'll get the it'll still think it's the testosterone out. The testosterone.
You get that
out.
kind of muscle and testosterone growth
okay.
that you get from a ram, but it's not fertile because the
Yeah.
heat. Because that's why testicles are outside your body because they have to be cold.
Oh.
And that's why like rams are more fertile in the cold months in the winter.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And partly I think some scans I say not as good as previous years. This year, such a mild winter, I think it has to have an
That's
impact.
part it, right?
I think it has to have an impact. If it's all about the more sperm they produce, the colder it is, allegedly, the more sperm they produce, then it must have an impact.
That's right.
Is that the same in humans?
Well, they are outside the body.
Wonder if
It is actually because I've heard stories that you shouldn't, if you're trying to have kids, you shouldn't have a hot bath before it. Or you shouldn't take hot baths. Hot baths are bad for it.
Right. Okay.
When's Lizzie due? June.
We don't even have a bath, mate. That's
That's
the problem.
October. It was last October cold.
We don't even. This is our thing. Like we're not quite an old style house. Like, we never
Yeah.
put the heating on. Like it's like
Just keep each other warm.
it's just a sperm factory. Anyway, on that note, we better wrap this up. We're getting over our time here now. We've talked enough nonsense. I'll probably need to cut most of that about overfeeding rams. By the end of ram sales. And we'll definitely need to send a bill to Logie Dunno for all the times we're mentioning them on this podcast.
Yeah.
Don't worry, when it comes down, I'll try and find something to give him a hard time about. Come on. He feeds tups too, can I just say? They feed the ones that they sell for 40,000, 50,000 get a
But
bite.
they've got to.
And the Charlies.
To be in that circle, they've got to. They've got to.
Oh, absolutely. It's a different game.
Aye.
Like they're
It's a
just,
different breed, like not different breed, but is it almost a breed within
Yeah.
the breeds?
yeah. Their forage reared Texel tups are totally different to the pedigree, these big
That's
ones.
fair enough if that's the way they do it, but as long as they remember the commercial side as well.
Yeah. But no, we'll get them down here to explain themselves very soon. Davey, it's been good to have you on. Great to hear about the woes of the islands. I think you get forgotten about all the time, especially in the rest of the UK. A lot of people won't have heard those stories and how bad it is at the moment. Try to make it work. But yeah, this boat will come eventually. Maybe.
I joined the ferry committee about the boat's supposed to come in 2018, and I joined the ferry committee because I quite fancied going the first run of the new boat. Still no here.
I know, 5 years on a committee. What do you actually talk about now? So it's actually turned into a chess club. The boat's never coming.
Aye.
Good man. Listen, great to hear from you, and safe travels back in that boat.
Hopefully we get back.
And you're back in the room. A good way to do it. So, got you out there. Suddenly you're back in the present. You've heard our interview. Cammy and Iona are sitting here the day before this podcast goes out to give you a real life up to date. What's happening now? Finger on the pulse. Hamza Youssef has resigned today. That's how you know
Has
this is
he?
close. Yeah, he resigned this morning. Hamza Youssef is the Scottish First Minister. Although technically still is until they elect a new one.
Was there scandal or did he just?
No, well, let's save it for the Q&A.
Okay.
Because we should touch on it a wee bit, I think, because it's some way relevant to agriculture in terms of the Greens being booted out and whatnot, but we'll save that for Friday's podcast. Now, we always do Tuesday. Great to hear for Davey there, I should say. We've skipped right over that.
Yeah.
Great to hear for Davey. The woes, honestly, the disaster of those boats on the island, it's a disgrace is what it is, but it is what it is. They just have to keep pushing forward. But Friday's chat, I mean, we always do our interview on the Tuesday, like we've done today. And Friday, like, there's mixed comments on our last one.
Yeah.
Some people loved it, others hated it. But we generally go for try and focus on a farming person or personality and have a chat with them about their life and various things. And then the Friday we just talk nonsense. You know, generally we'll try and talk farming related nonsense, but sometimes we go off on mad tangents. For me, it's literally just a blether in your ear.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoy podcasts where it's just like a group of mates chatting about things.
Yeah.
And I find them very entertaining. So that is what we go for on the Friday. It's just a bit of light-hearted chat to hopefully give you a laugh. Anyway, is that us?
That's us.
Thanks very much to Animax Tracesure and Crystalyx for sponsoring this podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday with another interview. And we'll chat some nonsense on Friday. Let's go.
We didn't do the I've been Cammy.
I've been Cammy.
I've been Iona.
And we're both
Fed by farmers.